Customer service. Finding good customer service can be pretty difficult, especially when you're talking to robots. Oh, it's the worst.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry. That does not compute. That's pretty brutal. How about if you're in the waiting room at, say, a doctor's office, and you've been sitting there, your appointment was at 11, and then it's 11:30, and then it's at noon, and it's 12:30, and you still haven't been called, and no one's like, hey, sorry, hold on 1 second, we're almost with you. You're just sitting there, rotting away. Our next guest has come up with a book called Ring Bell for Service that pretty much lays out the guidelines on how to provide fantastic customer service.
that's right. He understands the value of customer service. Dr. Timothy K. Johnson, founder and owner of Norge Dental Center. He is also an international best-selling author joining us today from the East Coast. Good morning, doctor. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing just fine. I have to say that waiting for longer than 5 minutes would be unusual in my office, but that goes beside the point.
There we go. Look at that little humble
Wow.
brag there. You know what? I should maybe switch it. My dentist is usually on time. The doctor's office, and especially the pediatrician. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
not so much.
yeah.
I think different offices, have different kind of agreements that some you just expect to wait for an hour. And honestly, I never get used to it. I always find it frustrating. Why do you
Yeah.
think this particular area of customer service is so important to you, having a dental center?
It's important because after all is said and done, the waking up and going to a doctor's appointment is nothing but is brutal. And if you can make it less somehow somewhat less brutal,
Mhm.
it's you're going to have a much better day of it. I recently had some medical things go on, and I had to go to the doctor's office. I sat there for a half an hour to an hour waiting, and it was 3 or 4 times, and always waiting. And I kept telling my wife, "These people are crazy,"
Yeah.
but that's how it is.
If you feel
Mm.
worse having left than when you first got there, they've done it wrong. So then
Right.
you've boiled it down to four critical steps to be able to make your business a successful one, regardless of the industry you're in. What are those steps?
Right. Well, continuous training is number one. The staff has to be continuously trained. On top of that, leadership has to be it's a focus point, and they have to be management. And the key of all of it is systems. If you don't have systems in place, you're just not going to have anything to show for it.
Yeah.
Excellent. And I believe, are those your dogs, doctor?
Yes.
We were all checking our because we
Wonderful.
have dogs too.
Yes,
We're like, is it my
we're
Yeah.
dog?
all
Whose
checking our
dog is
dogs.
The,
That's all
the
right.
door's closed, but nobody's home. I don't know what they're barking at.
We totally, one of the joys of working from home, we actually like you just a little bit more now that we know you have dogs. Um, there's this phrase, and I think I learned it at one of my first jobs at a clothing store when I was a teen, and that was the customer's always right. And it sounds good for the customers, but if you're
Right.
behind a counter and dealing with folks every day, boy, that can be a real tough phrase. How do you feel about that?
It's not always right. And the sooner you can realize that the customer is not always right, the better your life will be from the get go. For example, I highlight this in my book. A patient came into the office, new patient, had never been there before, and he insisted on talking to me first. Okay, well, I'm going to talk to him in a minute anyway in the consult room. And he was told that, and he said, no, no, I need to speak to the doctor before I go anywhere. Well, I was passing by the front desk and I said, okay. So I happened to go out there and he said, this TV that you have out here in the reception room, I have a problem with it. And I looked over at it and it was commercials playing. So no big deal. I said, well, what is it? Is I'm not, commercials are one thing. What is it normally playing? He said, well, you're obviously preaching your politics and it's Fox News. I said, all right, it could be Fox News today, it might be CNN tomorrow, it might be Home and Garden the next day. I don't
Yeah.
control it. And I said, let's go in the back. You have your own TV, you have headphones, you can tune in, all of the above. And he insisted. He said, no, I'm staying right here until you change that channel to either CNN or something else. In a blinding faith of action, I said to him, look, this is not the right practice for you, so you can see yourself out the door. And he
Well,
left. And he
that's
was
good.
Yeah.
miffed. I mean, he was miffed. And I was so happy. And I turned to my other two patients that were there, and they both gave me a little golf applause.
Yeah.
And they said, that was ideal, Tim. He would have been nothing but trouble. If he was already complaining
Bingo.
about the television,
Yeah.
he was going to be trouble.
Reminds me of my kids. If you
Wow.
if you give in to that, then you've literally encouraged that bad behavior.
Mm.
So yeah, you just saved
Right.
yourself a massive headache for years
Yep.
going down the line.
Jeez.
Really quickly, a couple things before we go. I know that you have a free copy of your book that you're going to be offering people that visit your website, right?
Right. Yep. Ring Bell for Service is the name of it. It's a collection of 15 chapters with 15 stories in them, like the one I just shared about the guy who didn't want to come in the back until we changed the channel, and each one with something special to learn from it.
And yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, speaking of learning, I think that you have a few steps that you advise people for resolving conflict. And just like that gentleman you had in your lobby, certainly we're living in an era where there is plenty of opportunities for conflict. So maybe you could share those with us.
Yeah, I'll go over them real quick. When someone comes in to you with a problem, the first thing you want to do is acknowledge the issue that's at hand. Just simply tell them how it's going to be. Second, you want to show empathy. And third, you're going to ask, and it's important, you're going to ask for a solution. You're not going to tell them a solution. So, for example, you'd say, Mrs. Jones, I'm sorry that this has happened. If I were you, I would feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
How can we make this better? And invariably, that diffuses anybody's situation, whatever it was. Right away, they're just thinking, "Are you kidding me? You're sorry, and you're going to make it better in any way I say it." And if there's one thing that I could give you from this, it's that the patients or the customers will always ask for far less than you're willing to give.
Mm-hmm. No question. Dr. Timothy K. Johnston, best-selling author.
Thank you.
Joining us now with some great advice. Thank you so much, pal.
Thank you.
All right. First 5 that go to his website, timothykjohnston.com. You're going to get a free copy of his book. So make sure you go to his website, timothykjohnston.com. And Bestseller Publishing, a proud sponsor of The Morning Blend.